When you're working with an inequality, there are several different ways to express the answers, so I wanted to take a look at several of those different notations. First of all, I want to start off with a line graph because this is the one most people are familiar with. Let's say you were to solve an inequality and the answer was to turn out to be all real numbers from 3 to 5. We would simply draw the real number line and to express all the numbers between those two values we would shade in between. Now if in word form it said all real numbers from 3 to 5 including 3 and including 5, we would put a solid filled in dot on both the 3 and the 5 to show that those two values are included. Now, an alternate way of doing this, another way to do the exact same, to represent the exact same set of numbers, is instead of a filled in dot on the 3 and the 5, we can put a square bracket on the 3 and on the 5. And that means the same thing that the dot meant. That means that the 3 is included and the 5 is also included. Now this is the line graph form of the answer. This type of answer can be expressed two other ways. The next way we can express it is in what's known as interval notation. With interval notation, we would state the fact that 3 is less than or equal to all of the x's that make up your answers, which is less than or equal to the 5. Notice how the x is basically playing the role of the shaded in region, which is between 3 and 5. And we put the or equal to on here again to reflect the fact that the 3 and the 5 were both answers. Now the last form, that was inequality notation. The last form of the answer is going to be in an interval notation. With the interval notation, we take the inequality notation we have here and we drop the x out of the middle. And we write 3, 5 to show that the answers go from 3 to 5. And we would put the square brackets on to mean the 3 and the 5 are both included. What you need to be able to do is to go from any one of these 1, 2, 3 notations into any of the other two. So next we'll start with the inequality notation. If I had -7 less than x less than 10, then I'm talking about all of the real numbers that go from -7 to 10. So I'm going to shade everything in between. But since there's no or equal to in either place, I'll put an open circle around those two numbers to show that they are not included. So this is the set of all real numbers from -7 to 10, not including -7, not including 10. Now, again, the line graph has a second way we can do this. Instead of a square bracket, after shading in between, instead of using the square bracket like we did last time to show inclusion, I can use a round parenthesis to show that the -7 and the -10 are not included. In the interval form, I would write -7, 10 to show everything from -7 to 10, but I would put round parentheses on both ends to show that neither one was included. Now, on this first set of answers, the endpoints were included. This time, they weren't. We can do a little bit of both. If I was to write -4, 12, putting a square bracket on the left and a round parenthesis on the right, what that represents is all the real numbers from -4 up to 12, so again, shading in between, including the negative 4, but excluding the 12. Now, writing that in the older, more familiar form, that simply means filled in dot on negative 4, shade all the way up, open circle around 12. Again, including one end, excluding the other. In the inequality notation, I would simply say negative 4 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 12. Again, including the negative 4, leaving off the 12. Now, all three of these intervals have been of a form called finite, meaning they have a left end, they have a right end. We sometimes run into infinite intervals. If we want to look at all the numbers from 2 out to infinity, I'm going to include the 2 with a square bracket. In inequality notation, since greater than means to the right of, and we're definitely to the right of 2, we'd simply write x greater than or equal to 2. In this inequality notation, we do not need to mention the infinity that occurs out here at the right end of this number line. But in the interval notation, I would say my interval starts at 2, comma, stops at infinity. Remember, infinity is the one out here on the right-hand side. 2 is included. Infinity is never included in this notation. So you always put the round parenthesis around it. Of course, your infinite interval can run in the opposite direction. If I want to look at everything from 10 down to negative infinity, and this time for the sake of practice I will not include the 10. In inequality notation, we would say x is less than 10, because less than means to the left of, and we're definitely down here to the left of it. I would not put the or equal to, because I specifically said the 10 was not to be included this time. And remember, in interval notation, it's always left to right. So it would be negative infinity, comma, 10, not in the other order. Again, left to right, left to right. I will not include infinities because I never do. And this time I will not include the 10 because it didn't have the or equal to, it didn't have the square bracket. So these are your basic 3 ways an inequality type answer should be expressed, and you need to be able to convert from any one to any of the others.